been a record-breaking year for the S&P 500 index. It has not only rallied, but it has experienced the largest rally since the Second World War. In the months of November and December of 2020 that just went by, that index returned 14.3% to investors. Now, what's interesting about this particular data point, the S&P 500's price performance in November and December, we've gone as far back as 1950, and in any year where this index gives you greater than a 10% return in November and December, the following January ends positively and the following full year ends positively as well. So we've gone ahead and pulled out a few data points for you. In 1954, November-December return was 13.6%. The following Jan, it was 1.8%. And the following year, which is 1955, it gave a 26.4% return. If you go to 1962, when November and December saw 11.6% gains, the following Jan saw 4.9% in 1 month alone, and then nearly 19% for the full year. 1970, a 10.5% November-December return resulted in a 4.2 January return and then a 10.8 next full year return. So that would have been 1971. In 1985, 11.3 in November and December translated into 0.2 in Jan, but still 14.6 for the end of year. 1998 saw 11.9% returns in November and December, which then went to 4.1 in Jan of next year, and then 19.5 for the full year of 1999. In 2020, we've seen the largest ever November-December gain at 14.3%. The closest to that was 1954 at 13.6, in which the following year the S&P returned 26.5%. So we may just be in for a very big year if you look at historical data. On an average basis, so you can't look at these price performances on an annual basis because they don't give you a clear picture of what's going on. So what you actually have to do is look at the average and the median. So if you look at the average, the Jan average post a positive 10% return in November and December typically yields 3%. And if you look at the average on the full year return, it's much higher, it's 18%. So what it shows us is that Jan continues the momentum, but if you hold the S&P 500 for the rest of the year, after any year in which the closing has given you more than a 10% return, you could be in for some big money. And 2020 certainly qualifies. What's particularly encouraging is that the percentage change is always positive. So, while one can argue as to what the extent of gains would be in the month of January, which we don't know yet because we're only 1/3 our way through the month, or the rest of this year, it's always been positive. So, just an interesting data point we'd like to flag off for you. If you want to base your investments on what the S&P has done in November and December and the following year over the last 7 decades, you might be able to safely make some money.